Welcome to Almar-Brini webinar. I am Azrul and today I will be sharing about process interaction and the importance for successful audit. In ISO 9001 and IATF 16949, there are at least 5 times or 5 areas where process approach thinking is needed. So today we will show you an overall view of how a process interaction should look like and what you need to know in order to execute a successful process approach audit. Alright, here is an overall view of how several processes are interacted. Take note that this is not from any of Almar-Brini's client, but rather just a model that we put together to represent a general process interaction in almost any manufacturing process. We're going to look at it one by one. Typically, the very first process in manufacturing company is the order fulfillment. The output of the process will be the input for the operation planning and control team, which is the second process. We will then probably will have the purchasing process where they will take the process further to our supplier, placing order and things like that. Besides being an input to the purchaser, operation planning and control will also interacting with the production planning team. At this stage, things are quite straightforward. Just take note that we have yet to get into the messy part of the interaction. Alright, let's continue. The purchaser will have the responsibility to provide an input to our supplier. Supplier is not a big process by itself and will be covered in our subsequent webinar. The first interaction between supplier and any manufacturing site is the incoming quality process. Here is where we start to see how a subordinate process becomes a part of the entire process interaction. In IQC, we receive several different parts. We also need to expect reject. So here we should consider tagging requirement into our process interaction. We also use several instruments and gauges in IQC for checking, and as such, we want to add into this interaction the calibration requirement. After IQC, typically we will push the raw material to the store and the tagging requirement will apply at this stage as well. Since we are not discussing on any specific manufacturing lines, we will not include those processes in the presentation. So let's pick primary process control as the next process. We are referring to several control like the machine setup, first piece inspection, SPC, etc. As such, tagging requirement will need to be a part of the process interaction in this stage. We also control the process using certain machine and tooling. Therefore, by now, we should have another sub-process included in the entire interaction. This is where we do preventive maintenance. Fast forward the whole process again, we will come to the in-process inspection, the one that normally done by QC. Again, calibration and tagging will need to be a part of the process interaction. In the IATF, we need to have secondary process control wherever and whenever necessary. So, whatever I have just said earlier regarding primary process control will repeat again at the secondary process control. Take note that process control shall vary with the production loading. The frequency of inspection may need to be increased or decreased based on the loading. Therefore, the output from the production planning will eventually becoming the input to the process control. The whole process continue until the finished good. Alright, now all process steps that are responsible for screening will need to be subjected to the control of non-conforming product. The subsequent process from here is the corrective action and the preventive action, which will become the input to the management review. Take note that there are more input to management review other than what presented here. The output of the management review will be the deciding factor for initiating the corrective action. In this whole process, we shall also consider few input like the common requirement as well as the specific requirement as listed here. Now we have almost a full view of a process interaction. By having this mapping, we have a clearer picture of what needs to be audited and where can we find the information. What's next is we will need to identify which ISO and IATF clauses that are relevant to each process step and interaction, which we will cover this in our next webinar. Shall you want to see the full video? Log on to our website www.almarbrini.com.